Hello everyone. I'm going to talk about the case for colonialism as a third topic of mine, the article from by Bruce Gilley, and I will just have some points to mention. But first of all, I just wanna talk about my opinion towards the article itself, the way it's written, the way it's handled. And first of all, I don't see any concern of the author where he consider the human principles of being in or have been in such a bloody period of colonialization. And the way he approached, actually, he does not respect what had happened during all these periods, the history of slavery, the history of all this war and people's struggle against colonization, this exploitation. He does not have this considered at all. And the way he handles the article, actually, what's the benefits and what's the cost. So in a way of society's sentimental concerns are not included in this, which makes, I would say, it's very critical to say that, but in a way he at the end approached the situation in a racist way, I would say. But it does not mean that you can not write your opinion or express your opinion. When you write your opinion, you have to somehow consider what actually society's values, their sentiments, and what had happened in their history. How do they feel? These things are not the author's considers at all. So I'm just going to talk about the points which I want to talk about. First of all, in the introduction part, he says that the recolonization is gonna be an improving feature, which is for primary of human values. In total, you don't see the human values and in human values concern in this article at all. At the beginning, he contradicts himself with its ratings, and the objective costs and benefits is one of his point that he somehow makes. The way he handles the article, actually, okay, if after post-colonial period, what happened in these countries, and with infrastructure, education, women rights, and these all things are still not improved back with I mean, during the colonialist periods, it was much more advanced. That's how actually he thinks, and somehow with the national or nation states approach, when the native countries, they have somehow struggled with fought with the colonizers. After these periods, he says, actually, all in these countries that there were civil war with the living of the colonizers. He gives the Kenya's case, and do not see, actually, or he does not approach from the perspective of indigenous people's rights to govern themselves. At the same time, of course, there is a loop of living all this authority, and there are new authorities that appear, of course, such as civil war, such a conflict. It can appear, but the way author handles it, it's the reason of actually the colonizers are not there. And second point is disruptive and non-disruptive practices. For instance, he says slave trade was a destructive practice which harms the colonizer's reputation, but it does not mean that there are not non-destructive practices. For instance, non-destructive practices that, for instance, in colonized period, women would be more safe, even though if we just check the history of colonizers, even after Second World War, most colonizers' country gave the suffrage right to women, and then in these countries they could both mostly between First World War, Second World War, and some of European countries. Everyone knows that it have happened until 1980s. And then he says women rights would be better in colonizer agenda. And the other point he says, Europeans, the imperial expansion is not just due to Europeans' push, but at the same time it was a pull situation from indigenous people. And so he does not actually give any insight about how actually this indigenous pull has happened, how he doesn't improve himself by giving many citations. He gives many citations, but this all citation does not actually give a clear insight about this pool of indigenous. And so second, he says nationalist allies actually somehow destroyed all the agenda of colonizers. For instance, economic liberalization is disrupted, economic pluralistic politic process is disruptive, the infrastructure is somehow destroyed. This is due to the national states. I will just keep short. And there is also many countries, he says, basically they went to recolonize governance system, they somehow adopted back again, so which is called good governance agenda. So many countries, basically he gives example of this, they somehow accepted this good governance of agenda, like economic liberalization, political pluralistic, and administrative streamlining. And I'm just not gonna talk about the tale of Galinas, which is totally something else. There is no any insight about criticizing the colonization period, what actually had happened in these places. He just basically somehow handles a situation where these people need to be governed by the colonizers, but he does not actually give any insight what happened, how they are exploited, how they were killed, how they were murdered. And he does not actually, the other critics of mine, he I don't think he considers that from colonization to nation state period, because he says they go back to colonization period. Actually, the Europe and European countries, colonizers and the others, from colonization period, they go to nation state. The next step would be nation company exploitation by companies. They can exploit, they can reconquer the country by companies, which is the current period, but he does not see that, which makes him to think that these people needs colonizers government the colonizers should govern them. This is totally the point what I want to make a racist approach, which actually comes from that he says Europeans or the colonizers, they should accept that invitation to go and then govern them. It comes from the idea that these people cannot govern themselves, so that's why they need to be governed, which is not accepted by Europeans, because they say it's not colonized period, it's nation state period, and maybe or nation company period. Somehow they cannot contradict themselves to go that period, but the author calls them to go that period. With their consent they can go and govern them. And yeah, this is the points which I want to make. Thank you.